Good evening. How is everybody this evening? I have the very distinct pleasure and privilege to introduce tonight our very own RIPEN, our Rotary International President-Nominee. Oh, those acronyms. Huh? If you have brought along with you your program, if you would turn to page 14 and follow along as I read. I'm just kidding, and Tom's heart just sunk. If you were to turn in that and read along, you would see a big long list of accomplishments and experiences and wisdom and things that John Germ has and accomplishments throughout this Rotary world. Some of the things that it says in there, it would tell you that John has received in 2013 the Champion of Change. He was recognized by the White House. What it did not tell you is that he was instrumental and led. Part of the reason that he received that award was that he helped to led the efforts to build Camp Discovery, which is a facility that is specially for those people who have mental and physical handicaps. A lot of the things that it has a long list of things that are in there, and a lot of things that we can't even put in there. It would take pages and pages of information. So what I want to do in order to keep things short and keep things simple, I will simply tell you this. There once was a RIPEN named John, whose Rotary wisdom went on and on. He tried to be Elvis, but listen close as he tells us how you are who the Rotary world depends on. Please join me in welcoming President-Nominee John Germ.
Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed my speech. I tell you what, I've never been embarrassed by somebody asking me my age before, but that's okay. I was glad to let him know how old I was, and I was glad to know I was born the day before Thanksgiving. What he didn't tell you was, Thanksgiving is 1939 was on my birthday, right? And 2000 what?
2006.
2006. When's the next time?
In 2017.
2017. That happens to be a good year, don't it? You notice he never does that to a lady? He's smart. Well, it's great to be home. It's great to be here and to share this wonderful experience with you. You know, Karen mentioned last night that I was one of the ones that coerced her and a few others to start the multi-district pets. And we got the idea from Ray Klingesmith, who had started the Show Me Pets. Now, you know in Missouri, you have to show them everything. But he also was the one that converted 4 districts down to 3, because the 3 districts have now become even more stronger, and I think that sometimes we need to do more of that around the Rotary world. But Judy and I are pleased to be with you. We have it on our calendar for next year. Ray told me that I was going to talk about polio tonight, and I didn't know that till today. So we'll talk a little bit about a lot of things, because it's important, I think, that you hear what I think and what Rotary expects of each and every one of you sitting in this room tonight. But before I do that, I've had the opportunity to visit several of the rooms. I think you've had great presenters, you've had great facilitators, and I'd like to ask all of them to please stand. So all the facilitators and all the stand. You know, they deserve that round of applause because they've taken the time and the effort to be with you, to give you certain amounts of knowledge, and their knowledge is based upon experience. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. How you spend that day is strictly up to you. You're embarking on the most exciting year that you will ever have in your Rotary career. Ray, Karen, I, and others can tell you about a lot of excitement of holding other offices. But there's no more important office that you will hold this year than that of being a local club president. There's not another place that you'll have more impact this year, now that you've been club president, to be that club president. You've been selected by your peers. Great honor to do that. But your success will not be by a single effort. One individual or one thing will not make you successful. It will be a partnership, a team effort, because you see, I believe that together, everyone accomplishes more. As president, you're going to have good communication skills with your officers and your members and the public. Working with your club, you must set a direction and steer the correct course. I'll illustrate with 2 battleships that were assigned to a training squadron, had been out on maneuvers in a heavy weather for several days. The visibility was poor, patchy fog, so the captain of one remained on the bridge, keeping an eye on all activities. Shortly after dark, the lookout said, "Light bearing on the starboard bow." Captain said, "Is it steady or is it moving astern?" Lookout said, "It's steady, sir." He said, "Radio, send a signal, change course 20 degrees. So he did. He said, "Tell them we are on a collision course. Advise, change course 20 degrees. He did. Light came back. Advise you to change course 20 degrees. Captain said, "Send, I'm a captain. Change course 20 degrees. Signal came back. "I'm a seaman second class. You better change course 20 degrees. Captain was mad. "Send, I'm a battleship. Change course 20 degrees. Signal came back. "I'm a lighthouse." You must understand communications if you're going to be a successful president. But you know, as Rotarians, we're not just members of our local club. We're part of a great movement which transcends all divisions of race, color, and creed. 5 continents, over 1.2 million men and women, 537 districts, and over 200 countries and geographic regions, all united for the ideal of service. The ideal of service, what does it really mean? To me, it means that a Rotarian is someone that does not just pass by on the other side. A Rotarian is someone that does what they can to help those in need in their community and the world. And working as a family of Rotary, we can be more effective, more efficient, and more persuasive in helping solve the social problems of poverty, lack of clean water, food, literacy, health, and hunger. But we must also, as presidents and Rotarians, be able to resolve conflicts. Camel herder was going through the desert, and he saw 3 fellow camel herders fighting. And he couldn't figure out why they were fighting, and they had their swords out, and they were really battling. So he went over to them and he said, "What is the problem?" And they said, "Well, sir, we have 17 camels. Our father died, and he said that as the oldest, that I was to get 1/2 of the camels. He said my brother was to get 1/3 of the camels, and my other brother was to get 1/9 of the camels. We cannot do that unless one of us dies, because 17 is not divisible the way that my father said." So the camel herder said, "Well, let me lend you or give you one of my camels. Then you will have 18 camels. Then you can fulfill your father's wishes. Because then you can take 9 camels. Your other brother can take 6 camels. And the brother that was to get 1/9 can take 2 camels. So see, 9 plus 6 is 15, and 2 makes 17. And he said, "Can I have my camel back now?" So there is a solution to everything. Your knowledge and your ability in Rotary will help you solve those type of problems, because you are the team leader. But leadership involves working with people. When minds, hearts, and talents work together, great things can happen. And it's called the spirit of cooperation. And let me share you the lesson from the geese. As each bird flaps its wings, it creates uplift for the bird following it. By flying in a V formation, the flock's flying range is 71% greater than if each bird flew alone. The lesson: people who share a common direction and sense of community can get where they're going quicker and easier because they're taking advantage of each other's thrust. Whenever a goose falls out of formation, it suddenly feels the drag and resistance of trying to fly alone, and quickly gets back into formation to take advantage of the lifting power of the bird immediately in front. The lesson: if we are as smart as geese, we'll stay in formation with those who are headed where we want to go. When the lead goose gets tired, it rotates back into the formation, and another goose flies at the point position. The lesson: it pays to take turns doing the hard task and sharing leadership. People, as well as geese, are interdependent upon each other. The geese in formation honk from behind to encourage those up front to keep up their speed. The lesson: we need to make sure that our honking from behind is encouraging, not something less helpful. When a goose gets sick or wounded or shot down, 2 geese drop out of formation and follow it to protect it. They stay with it until it is either able to fly again or dies. Then they launch out on their own, joining another formation to catch up with their flock. The lesson: if we had as much sense as the geese, we will stand by each other just like they do. I believe that little story from the lesson of the geese certainly demonstrates how each of us can learn from our experiences and share leadership with our fellow Rotarians and members of Interact, Rotaract, Ryla, and members of our communities. You, and you must be the leaders. You're the ones that we are depending on to lead the clubs. You're the ones that we're depending on to set the course for our direction for this coming year and years to come. But to be successful, to have a successful year, you will need to be your club's medic. You will need to be a motivator, an encourager, educator, delegator, inventor, and cheerleader. Paul Harris once said, "The combined effort has no limitation." So think about that you are not just an individual. You have club members to help you on your goals. That combined effort can lead you to success. To have a successful year, you only need one thing: 365 successful days. Each club's different. Each community is different. And we are all similar, though, in that we want to improve the lives of people, as you heard Ray say today, in all of our communities, in our world. And to accomplish that, you have to set your goals. But there's three types of goals. But you need a definition of a goal. My definition is a goal is a dream with a deadline. But there's three types: the kind you make for yourself, the kind that someone gives you, the kind that you get caught up in that belong to someone else. I ask you to make your own goals, to set your path so that you know that your goals are smart, they're specific, they're measurable, they're attainable and achievable, they're relevant, and they're traceable. I could give you the secrets of success. I could tell you a lot of things that make people successful. But there's only one thing where success comes before work, and that's in the dictionary. If you want to be successful during your year, you have to work hard. And I know that you're committed to do that because you're Rotarians. And Rotarians keep up their word and do what they say they will do. You may sit there tonight and you're going to think, I'm just one individual. But I want to share a poem with you that I truly believe in. It was a prayer that was given by a former chaplain of the United States Senate. It said, "I'm only one, but I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something. And then what I can do, I ought to do. And that what I ought to do, by the grace of God, I will do." Think back with me to one individual that had the vision to start Rotary International. Think back with me to one individual whose name was Arch Clump, who had the vision of doing something good in the world. And you heard from Ray today about all of the good that has been done. 6th President, Rotary International, and in Atlanta in 2017, we'll be celebrating the 100th birthday of the Rotary Foundation. And I expect each and every one of you to be there. It will be a good convention. Think back with me about one individual, past President Clem Renoff, who was on an airplane and read where smallpox had been eradicated. He made a call to a man by the name of Dr. John Sever, who was a district governor, and said, is there something of this magnitude that we could do to help change the world? And back then, Rotary was only involved in community projects. They weren't involved and hadn't even thought about doing projects around the world. And after a conversation with Dr. Sabin, they came back and said, yes, there is something we can do. There is a disease that we can eradicate, and it's called polio. But it is not going to be simple. It will take time. Think with me about a man named James Bomar that had the opportunity in 1979 to go to the Philippines to place 2 precious drops in a child's mouth. Think with me when James Bomar was placing those 2 drops in a child's mouth and he felt a tug on his pant leg. When he got through placing those 2 drops, he looked down. A young boy who was a crawler looked up at him and said, "Thank you, mister. That was my sister. She will not be crippled as I am." What was he really saying? He was saying, thank you, Rotary. Thank you for having the vision, the dream that you could accomplish something on a worldwide basis. Yes, it affects your community, but yes, it affects so many others. Think with me to 1985, when Rotary was challenged to raise $120 million. And they took that task on and raised $247 million. Think with me, over 1,000 cases per day of polio in 125 countries in 1985. Think with me when Rotary stood up a second time in 2003 and said, yes, we'll raise $85 million, and we raised more. Think with me when the man that has more money than all but 8 countries in the entire world said, I will give you $100 million if you agree to raise $100 million. Think with me about that man that transferred that $100 million when we didn't even have a campaign. We didn't have a chairman. But he said, I want you to spend that $100 million by December the 31st of 2008. But I want you to raise it by December the 31st of 2010. Bill Gates had the confidence in each and every one of you sitting in this room to trust you, to trust us, that if we say we will do something, we in fact will do it. Bill Gates said he gave that money to Rotary because Rotary knew where to spend the money, but they had the passion to do it where it was most needed and to fulfill that dream of no child ever having to be crippled. Think with me, when we raised that money prior to the deadline, and we were halfway through when he said, I'll give you $255 million if you'll raise another 100. Well, now who's going to tell him no? Nobody in this room. You had till December the 30th of 2012. You did it in January, and he gave you $50 more million because of what you agreed to do. We now are in another campaign with Bill Gates. We will, in fact, if we raise and commit $35 million a year, per year for the next 5 years, he will match that on an annual basis of $70 million. These districts have been extremely good in supporting the Rotary Foundation and polio eradication. But where are we today? Where are we today? We have now been, since July the 24th of 2014, with no cases in Nigeria. The last case, we believe, has happened in Nigeria. That means that the entire continent of Africa can be polio-free. Another milestone in our quest and our promise to the children of the world to eradicate polio. Afghanistan, one case this year, and it came from Pakistan. Pakistan, 19 cases. Only 19, but that is 19 too many. 90 healthcare workers have been killed in Pakistan. Trying to do what we wanted to do was to help us in our quest to eradicate polio. We give our money, we give our time. There's many people in this room that have been on NIDs. There's many people in this room that have helped us in Congress to help secure funds from our elected officials. And those are all needed things. But we also need those boots in the ground and those places it's unsafe for us to go. So think about those workers that have been killed. But think about the government that has now said, if you do not have the polio drops for your child and have your child vaccinated, you will be arrested. 700 parents have been arrested in Pakistan because they've refused to have their child receive those precious drops that have kept them from being crippled. Think with me about going up to a house and you knock on the door. The mother brings her baby to you. And you're putting those drops in this child's mouth. And you look in there and you see a crawler, a young child on the floor. And you ask the mother, what is the name of that child? And she looks at you and says, the child has no name. He is useless because he has polio. Can we afford that? I think not. So I think we have to do whatever is necessary for us to continue on our quest to eradicate polio. One person can make a difference. And each and every one of you in this room can make a difference. But you know, there are three types of people in this world. There's those that watch things happen. There's those things that wonder what happened. And then those that makes things happen. We as Rotarians must do our part. We must be the ones that make things happen in our communities. We must lend our hands and our hearts to support those others in our community, our vocations, and our world. Your year as president will be as you want it to be. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. How you spend that life depends upon you. The decision is in your hands. Lei Tao, the great Chinese philosopher, once said, a leader is best when people barely know he exists. Not so good when people obey and acclaim him. Worse when they despise him or despair him. But a good leader who talks little, when his work is done, his aim fulfilled, they will say, we did it ourselves. Thank you.
I think it's pretty obvious that one person can make a difference, and you have. You're an inspiration to all of us, your life, your work, and everything that you're going to continue to do. From my knowing you for a couple of years, I know it's hard to, I don't think anyone's ever said no to you in their life. So isn't that true? Thank you.
Thank you.
A little something for you, Gene.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.